before they wanted half our.
And the other thing that most bizarre thing is on the mail,
So you say don't do that.
on the mail function, it says, I hit reply, and in the text area, it types everything I type exactly backwards. Russian. No, I mean like right to left instead of left to right. I mean it's really bizarre. And then it won't send.
Short meeting.
I don't know what's wrong with it.
So,
Right.
Are all the mics working? Can you hear this okay? Okay.
how's your foot doing?
Feeling better. I go Wednesday. Really hope it's not 100%. It's more of a nuisance than anything. Get in and out of his car.
I
Word for
foot
Tuesday, October
years ago. I mean, not
29th at
in
5:30.
recent, like maybe
I had a
put me off the fact of like working out, and then I just didn't.
I found out today.
But it was really bad.
Slowly trying to skip the workers' house, and if you don't
Been in workers' compensation.
I wasn't thinking
Judge
like I
for
broke
about
my foot.
Well, and this
11,
thinking
12
is a
months,
stress
and
fracture.
he was appointed right at the end of
It's
Nixon's
just
term.
like up in here.
So when
But I think it's because I rolled and kept.
the Democrats lost the election,
But yeah, it's. But I think sometimes
the Republicans quickly tried to undo all of his appointments. So they passed this rule that says there can only be so many. So what it did is it ultimately took him out of his job almost as soon as he got it.
tell I
Had him
don't-
for like 10 months.
I was self-diagnosed with like just like club foot. I don't know club foot, but like you know, if I'm skiing, like turning is harder. Like
He was a good judge. Just wasn't a judge for very long.
tactic at all, as my grandma used to say.
He's 54 years old.
Turns out I have
4 kids.
leukemia, so then they sent me to a promotion.
Wife.
Because 18 months ago I broke up with my
And just
And so now,
I read them, just every once in a while, there's just a point of information, and I'll chime in and just get a data point in that fact or something.
junk science.
and I guarantee you nobody does it for the money.
Sort of like,
I mean, administrative law judgeship is $90,000 a year, maybe
I
100.
listen, they don't make sense.
osteoporosis, which is really deteriorating.
So I'd like to know who she is.
Really sad.
Bone density should go back.
It's like gluten was so bad.
So I'm like, well, I'll try that instead of medicine. But I see the bone doctor. But see, the medicine, if you're on too long, your bones get like brittle and like get hard, and then you'll like. So I'm like, well, I'm not bad. I'm like, hell.
She feels vaguely like a Monty Python skit.
I can change what I.
I'm sorry. I just sort of waved the paper around it.
No, you drink your sugar-free Red Bull with pride.
How old are you?
Are you? I didn't realize you were still in law school.
Some of us don't get much sleep. If he was in law school, it wouldn't be sugar-free.
That's what got me through.
Call to order the October 21st, 2019 regular Board of Aldermen meeting. Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Here. Present. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval or amendment of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the proposed agenda? Any objection? Any objection to approving it by acclamation? It will be so approved. Item 4, announcements, appointments, proclamations, and recognitions. I believe we just have one on the agenda, and that is for the city treasurer. As everyone on the board should know by now, we have an opening due to Greg Reinders, who was the city treasurer, and the city treasurer not only acted in that capacity, but also acted as the liaison or sat on the police and fire pension board. And with Greg moving, there's a vacancy, and we had 3 applicants. I looked at those. I consulted with both our city administrator and our director of finance, and after having looked at all those and considering all The benefits of all three applicants, there are three terrific applicants. I ultimately decided on Keith Slusser, who is as you all know, is a former alderman for Ward 2. And when he was an alderman, he was chairman of Ways and Means. And seeing that one of the duties of the city treasurer is to advise the Ways and Means Committee, I thought it made perfect sense to appoint Keith to that position. I think it'll be very beneficial to the city in general and the Ways and Means Committee in particular. So that is my appointment. Bola, do we need approval on that?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a roll call?
We have done it as such in the past.
Okay. I don't need a motion for that. It's just a motion to.
Motion to approve the mayor's appointment.
Okay, we get a motion to approve Keith Slusser as the city treasurer.
Yes, so moved.
Okay. Motion made by Alderman Plufkin, seconded by Alderman Leahy. Any discussion on that? Okay, roll call, please. Shelley?
Alderman Rader?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockwood?
Yes.
Alderman Rader?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Martin-Price?
Yes.
Alderman Wade?
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public hearings. Anybody in the audience care to address the board? Now is the time to do so. You will be given up to 3 minutes. Please come on down, Ed. I'm sorry?
You mean citizen comments?
What did I say?
No public hearing, right?
I'm sorry, citizen comments, yes. With that, Ed, come on down.
I can hear you and you can hear me, so we're having a public hearing. Ed Wright, 20 Stratford Lane. I'm Vice President of the Brentwood Century Foundation. As you know, we've been doing a lot of celebration this year for our 100 years. It started with a trivia night back in January. We've had recognition months of residents and the Howard Evans Place panel that went really well. Art exhibits, community service weekend, we've had block parties, we've had ball games, old-time ball games, Brentwood night, Brentwood Day at Cardinal Baseball, and they hit much better on Brentwood Day than they did in the NLCS. But we had a concert and movie night in here. We, of course, had the Brentwood Days and Parade and the race to the courthouse. And we have 2 events left, 2 events. First of all, actually, second of all, on November 23rd, Saturday, we have arranged, we bought 80 tickets for walking through Winter Wonderland at Tilly's Park. If you're interested in doing that, it's sold out. We already sold all our tickets for Brentwood. So I will tell you that we're going to have a nice group of Brentwood people among the others, hundreds that are walking through that night. But that went very fast, and we're very excited about that. But obviously, the big event that we're sponsoring, the last one, is Saturday, November 9th, the Brentwood Gala, the Party of the Century. It's being called many things. It's Saturday, November 9th, down at the Xavier Grand Ballroom on Lindell Boulevard. We have cocktail hours, dinner buffets. We're going to have the music from all different eras. We're going to have memorabilia there to look at. You're going to have souvenir glasses to take home. We have a trolley that's going to be taking people from the rec center who would like to ride the trolley, the old-time trolley, down to the gala and back. And it's only $35 a person, including the meal and drinks and everything. And you can buy a table for $350. We are hoping that the city officials, together, in tandem or individually, will buy tickets not only as individuals, but maybe tables and treat some of these hard-working city employees to a party down there. So anyway, we are very much encouraging. I'm going to pass out the reminder cards. I will take money tonight, or you can go online, Brentwood100.org, and you can get tickets that way. However you need to. Tony Bowman is handling a lot of the finances, but we think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a real highlight to the year. So please join us. And I know our aldermanic liaison for the Century Foundation, Mr. Lockmuller, wanted to. Did you want to talk anything about it now?
I'll wait till my time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Excuse me for
Thanks,
getting
Ed.
on the platform here.
It's all right.
And my tennis shoes.
That's what's so good about it.
Thank you. Thanks, Ed.
Sure. And I'll leave these right on the table over here for anyone else in the audience. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks for all your work on this Brentwood 100 throughout this entire year, yours and Tony's and everybody else's.
I'm Sally Westenberger. I live at 2626 Bremerton Road. I've already asked David, Alderman Pucker, are you guys aware that I live on the dividing line? The west side of this road is Rock Hill. Well, Rock Hill in their infinite wisdom has posted signs, and they're enforcing it shortly at 20 miles an hour. The posted speed limit on the Brentwood side is 25 miles an hour. And you said you weren't aware of it.
I was not.
I will be at public
Public
safety.
safety?
Yes.
Sure.
Thanks,
I
Sally.
wanted to make you aware of it.
I appreciate that, yeah.
And, Post 101 will have the color guard for your Veterans Day.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Sally.
Thanks, so.
My name's Andy Truss. I live 2825 Brazo, and the reason I'm in front of you guys tonight, we have a drive on a piece of property at 8722 Suburban Tracks that as of, I guess sometime Friday, it was on the agenda for a vote for condemnation, and it was taken off. I had a terrible weekend knowing that I was going to be up here listening to you vote on a piece of property that I own under condemnation. Can anybody answer why that was taken off, or why it even got to that point?
I think we'll let.
You should consult with your attorney. That's the answer I get? Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the public care to address the board? All right, we will move on. Next on the agenda is item 7, Mayor and Aldermanic reports. Mayor has no report. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor, we have a Ward 4 meeting, the next one coming up in a few days on October the 29th, next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow at the Brentwood Forest Clubhouse, 9000 Brentwood. We'll be upstairs at 5:30 that evening, just before the regular Brentwood Forest meeting at 6, and we hope you get a chance to join us.
Thank you. Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Ward 3 meeting for the month of October will be Tuesday night, the 29th, at 7 p.m. at the Brentwood Rec Center. And if I may continue, Your Honor?
Sure.
Thank you. Thursday night is October the 31st, is the fun night for Halloween. Please advise your kids to be careful and ask those that are out driving also to be careful. Make it a fun night, but not with misery. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Alderman Lockmuller.
Just to tag on what Ed said, Mary Jo and I are going to get a table for the gala and invite a lot of the neighbors. Kind of challenge, don't mean to put everybody on the spot here, but challenge, get some neighbors together and get a table there. For $35 a person, we're going to have a lot of entertainment, good food, and a good time. Great presentations going to be had. And we'll have some mayors there and some other dignitaries, and it'll be a good time.
Thank you. I know I speak on behalf of Ward 1 when I say they give already, because they always seem to lose to Ward 3 in every type of competition. I think you threw down the gauntlet, and I appreciate that. Alderwoman O'Neill.
No report.
Alderman Plufka.
I have a public safety meeting, as Sally asked about and made reference to. We'll be talking about Bremerton at that public safety meeting on Wednesday. It is Wednesday, October 23rd. It is 5:30, and I believe it's in this room. Is that right? It'll be right here at 5:30.
Thank you. Alderwoman Sims.
No report.
Alderwoman Tice.
I'd just like to remind everyone, but particularly the residents of Ward 1, that on October the 30th, there will be a McKnight Road study presentation from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Community Center. So please attend if you have interest.
Thank you. Alderman Weggie.
Okay, so a couple months ago, or a couple weeks ago, I started a conversation about sustainability in Brentwood.
Since then, we had an opportunity to go visit one of the homes that's installed solar power. Learned quite a bit there. I thought I was pretty knowledgeable about solar and where we were in terms of the technology, and really opened my eyes. So I actually have a special guest for my report tonight. So Eric from Straight Up Solar is here. And there were three things that I asked him. One is kind of a summary of how other cities handle solar in terms of permitting. I see that as some very low-hanging fruit that we as a city could maybe streamline the process for installation of solar, zero cost, and just make it easier. Also, kind of the state of solar power, just some kind of basic economics of it. To the end of, I have asked for the current budget that we put a little bit of money in to start estimating what it would cost to put solar panels on the rec center. That would be a good business case in my opinion, but I think we can maybe hear a little bit more as we inform on that. And then third, there's a program called Grow Solar, which would also be a zero cost opportunity for the city to start advocating for. So Eric's going to mention that as well. So a quick presentation, and I think this is the right time for it because this is informing future decisions. There's no decision in front of the board right now, but I just wanted to kind of raise all of our knowledge boats together on solar as we talk about this. So thank you, Eric. I appreciate you showing up tonight.
Thank you very much, Alderman. Thank you very much, Board of Aldermen, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Eric Schneider. I'm the Director of Business Development for Straight Up Solar. We're a homegrown St. Louis company. We were founded in 2006, and we currently have grown from a staff of one person. We had the first solar installer in the state of Missouri, Dr. Dane Glick. Now we have 80 employees, so we're really proud that solar is growing here in St. Louis. We added 30 employees last year. The reason I here, and I met the city clerk and the alderman, was at the National Solar Tour. We're proud to have installed 2 solar arrays here in the city of Brentwood in residential homes here, and it was great talking with the neighborhood about how solar is working here. We're also proud to be part of 10 group buy programs, working with municipalities to advance community education and reduce the cost of solar, make it affordable and accessible for all citizens. I was asked to talk a little bit about, and I sent a presentation to all of you, and apologize for not having a projector here, but I think the presentation was emailed to you. The key reasons most people kind of go solar, it obviously, is energy security. You can lock in your energy rates over the life of the panels, which tend to be 25 years here. Obviously, the environmental benefits, you're transitioning from coal energy, which Amber provides, to solar energy. But probably for your standpoint, for the city of Brentwood standpoint, studies have shown that the average housing prices increase 4% for people who have solar versus people who don't have solar in mature markets, Los Angeles, the Californias, Denver, Chicago, which clearly adds value to the city, adds to your housing stock, and obviously it adds to your assessed value here. So those are the fiscal, the energy, and the environmental savings are all key factors on solar here. What I really wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about is how Brentwood could be perhaps a solar-friendly city here. In the presentation, I gave you a table of kind of how other cities work in terms of solar permitting here. Right now in the city of Brentwood, solar panels have to go through an architectural review board, which is a little bit unique to the St. Louis County area. The city of Clayton, where I'm a resident, has that procedure. Wildwood has that procedure here. But other cities are working on programs that are kind of integrated the building permit process. Some just require an electrical permit. For instance, in our area across the river in Swansea, you only need an electrical permit for a solar array. And when you get that approved, you can put the array on. St. Charles County has integrated their building and electrical permitting process here to make it a little more streamlined. And then we have cities that require building and electrical permit, which is a little more common, city of St. Louis County, and city of University City here. So all those obviously directly impact not only the soft costs that are involved in the installation of the solar array, but also slows down the amount of savings that goes into the homeowner, because the quicker they get that solar array, the quicker they can get energy savings onto it. What I wanted to call your attention to as you think about making Brentwood a more friendly solar city, I encourage you to look at this organization called SolSmart. It's an initiative funded by the U.S. Department of Energy Solar Energy Technology Office with support from the International City Managers Association. And they have 8 criteria they look at in developing a solar city, and they've designated 20 cities, bronze, silver, and gold, that are solar friendly. Next year they want to designate 300 cities. I'll just kind of go through a little bit some key points here. Permitting, one thing on a solar friendly city is, do you have like an online checklist or online permit submission here? And again, can you kind of streamline your review process with building and electrical permits? Planning and zoning, things that SolSmart recommends is making solar PV and accessory use, accessory by right, and ground mounts accessory uses here. And also making clear the guidelines for historical standards. As we mentioned, homeowners associations have their own standards, cities have their own standards. It's important to kind of make sure that's aware when someone applies for a solar panel on their roof, it's clear what each of those requirements are for the homeowner association and for the city, and if you're in a historical district, what the steps are going forward here. Inspections, some of the leading cities across the country are cross-training their inspection staff, the building inspector and the electrical inspector, cross-train and are knowledgeable on how solar arrays work. Construction codes, you may know California is always on the leading edge of solar, but they're now requiring new construction homes to actually have solar panels by 2020, but even making them solar ready, making sure kind of the setbacks, the electrical systems in there are ready to install solar would be a big move here in the Midwest here. Solar rights, to make sure that the city publicizes the rights of the homeowners to have a solar array, or not only that, but how they should communicate with a solar installer like ourselves, making sure that we're transparent and clear. The state of Illinois has a great program called Illinois Shines that requires all our vendors to wear special name tags to identify that we're a solar company and make sure that we have a special brochure before we ever sell any arrays in Illinois. Utility engagement is another key aspect of a solar-friendly city that kind of allows making sure the local government and the staff are all kind of coordinating with our utility AMRIN to make sure that the permission to operate timeline is clear to the homeowner. Community engagement, I'll talk about Grow Solar St. Louis in a minute. That's been a very successful program. That helps your residents know, again, that solar can be accessible and affordable. Similarly, what we did by hosting the open house tour by your resident, Mr. Burkemper, was the host of the National Solar Tour here by Tillis Park. And finally, I want to make sure everyone's aware, as a solar-friendly city, that residents of Brentwood are eligible for PACE financing, which allows St. Louis County residents and St. Louis City residents to fund their solar array through their property taxes. That's a voluntary tax assessment. That's a program that most people probably don't know about, but clearly residents of Brentwood are eligible to take a 20-year loan and put it on their property taxes. In addition to maybe the city of Brentwood would encourage maybe local banks to get more involved in solar arrays. So again, that program is called Soul Smart. Again, it's by the U.S. Department of Energy, Solar Energy Technology Office, with support from the International Cities Manager Association. My presentation, I wanted to highlight a gold standard city, which is Columbia, Missouri. And I encourage you guys to contact Brendan Renaud, who's the Utility Services Manager for the City of Columbia Water and Light. They received the gold level certificate because they have an online permitting checklist. They've reviewed their zoning codes to eliminate barriers to solar. They've allowed solar by right as an accessory use in all zones. They've cross-trained both their inspection and permitting staff on solar PV, and they've also streamlined a permitting pathway for solar PV systems. So that was the permitting process, why they got the gold standards, but in addition, Columbia has installed a 2 kilowatt array on their Columbia area career centers, so they put it on their public facilities here. They've hosted solar workshops to inform City of Columbia residents how solar can be affordable and accessible. They've also established partnerships with nonprofits on solar. The city supported a Habitat for Humanity effort to build Columbia's first solar-powered net zero home. So I just wanted to mention that if you're interested in more, contact Soul Smart and again, the City of Columbia for more information on that. And finally, I have some brochures I left for the audience members and for the Aldermen here on Grow Solar St. Louis. This is a very innovative program. The inaugural program in the state of Missouri is a program organized by the Missouri Botanical Garden and Washington University that provides community education and a group-buy concept to residents of St. Louis City and St. Louis County. We do that by hosting power hours. We've done 20 power hours so far. There are 6 remaining power hours, and we've focused these power hours on the cities that have been our promotional partners, which are City of Clayton, City of Maplewood, City of Richmond Heights, and University City. That's our next 6 programs. We're going to be in those cities. We'd love for Brentwood to consider being a host for next year again. No cost to the city to be a promotional partner here. I just wanted to mention that through this process here, we're the solar installer, but we bid on a group rate. So it's a group rate, a base rate, and it's a group-on concept. So as more people sign on to the program, there's greater discounts and rebates back to the program here. So with that, thank you very much, Alderman Wegge, for the time to speak on solar. I'll be happy to answer any questions now or later. Again, my name is Eric Schneider with Straight Up Solar, and look forward to Brentwood being involved in Grow Solar St. Louis next year, or anything else we can help to make you a solar-friendly city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Anybody have any questions for Eric while he's up here? Made this trip? Great, thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Anything else, Alderman Wiggy?
No, that's good.
Okay,
Thank you.
certainly. Next on the agenda is the Brentwood Bound update.
Thank you, Mayor. The October 21st, 2019 Brentwood Bound update. For the construction cost, we have not spent any additional funds from October 7th, so total budget remains $32,998,199. The soft cost, we spent an additional $54,000 plus, so total spent since the last board meeting is $123,291.50. For property acquisition, there have been no additional expenses incurred, because we have not closed on any additional property, but we know that there are some forthcoming. So total spent to date is $8,374,939.09. And lastly, contingency, these are funds set aside for unexpected or unforeseen cost. Total spent today is $0. I am happy to report that the city has released its first bid demolition package. So that was released early last week. And those submittals are due November 5th. There are a total of 5 properties that are scheduled to be demolished. They are 2735 Bonaparte Avenue, 2940 Mary Avenue, 8302 Manchester Road, 8304 Manchester Road, and 8606 Manchester Road. We would like to commemorate this demolition, so we will schedule a photo op for the board, the mayor and the board, to be present when we start that.
Will that be with the hazard map requirements also?
So the results from all the phase 1, phase 2 environmental studies will be included in that demolition package, so that those who bid on it would know the condition of the soil, and be prepared for that.
Will we have like a silver sledgehammer or something that the mayor swings?
We will make that
Oh.
I got one you can paint.
Any other questions for the city administrator on the Brentwood Bound update? Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have a number of items. First is the standing committees report. Item B are the warrant lists, the operating funds, and 2019 expenditures from 2018 certificates of participation. Minutes of the September 3rd meeting, September 11th meeting, September 16th meeting, October 1st meeting, and October 7th meeting. And finally, resolution number 1183, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Auto Environmental Systems for recycling carts. Can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Here we have a motion by Alderwoman Sims and seconded by Alderwoman O'Neill. Any discussion? Did I mess that up? Are you serious? Was it you, Nancy? I apologize.
using the same microphone. I mean, it's
Every time.
They look like twins, don't they?
Okay. All right. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay. Roll call, please, Shelley.
Alderman Kramer?
yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Polka?
Yes.
Alderman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Wade?
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, old business, bill number 6258. Can we get a second reading by title only, please, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, sir. Bill number 6258, second reading and consideration for adoption of an ordinance amending chapter 500 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood and adopting new building, residential, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, existing building, fuel, gas, energy conservation, property maintenance, and fire codes.
Thank you.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Motion to perfect Bill 6258 into ordinance form. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Leahy, seconded by Alderman Plufka. Any further discussion on bill number 6258? Alderman Kramer.
Mr. Chairman, may we have the synopsis since we're going to...
Certainly, certainly. City Administrator, do you have the synopsis available?
Yes.
bit. I see it.
Yeah, my iPad's moving.
The Planning and Development staff will present proposed amendments to the 2018 International Code Council, ICC, suite of codes. There will be an open house to present information for the proposed adoption of the 2018 ICC suite of codes to contractors on Thursday, June 20th, from 4 to 5:30 p.m. at the Brentwood Community Center. Staff will provide a briefing at both 4 and 5 p.m. The attached open house invite was sent to all contractors registered in the city's MyGov system. Approximately 300 invitations were sent. Any discussion on bill number 6258? Alderman Kramer.
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the admiration that I have for the Department of Planning on this upgrade, this will be the most up-to-date that our city has ever been regarding the ICC. There's always, in the history of Brentwood, 3 to 5 to 8 to 10 years lag has often been the case, and there was an enormous amount of work, I understand, in putting this together, and cooperation with a lot of the folks who have to follow these codes. And once again, just a huge amount of recognition for the effort.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Roll call, please, Shelley.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Shelley. Item 10B, bill number 6259. Can we get second reading by title only, please?
Bill number 6259, second reading and consideration for adoption. The ordinance granting a conditional use permit to Stephen Wallace for a fitness gym at 8500 Manchester Road.
Thank you. Have a synopsis?
An application was received from Stephen Wallace to operate a fitness gym in the existing building located at 8500 Manchester Road. The property is a multi-tenant retail center and is 1.10 acres in size. The present MC district allows enclosed or open recreational uses by conditional use permit for Class A, 2 acres or greater in size, and Class B, at least 1 acre, but less than 2 acres in size. The subject property is a Class B site, given its land area of 1.10 acres. The petitioner desires to operate a fitness gym at this location, requiring conditional use permit approval. The existing building is approximately 4,000 square feet. No alterations to the exterior of the building or to the site are planned. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the conditional use permit by a vote of 8 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. Alderman Leahy.
Your Honor, I'll make the motion to perfect Bill 6259 revised from last meeting into ordinance form.
Second.
Okay, we had a motion by Alderman Leahy, seconded by Alderman Lockmiller. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, item 10C, the sewer lateral program. Bola, are you handling that, or is Dan handling that? Dan? Sure. Dan, pull that microphone over if you would, please. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're ready. In your board packet, we've talked about this in Public Works Committee and a couple other different areas, but there's basically 7 different things that we talked about in the meetings, starting with as simple as elimination of the program. Then we talked about, hey, we've got debt, so we have to pay that back first, so there would be a loan payment from the general fund that we took out that we would need to consider paying that down. Cost responsibility, contractor payment timing, And then some other things would be like limiting the program just for defective sewers. We've had some people that say it's part of a home sale contingency, even though they haven't experienced a backup, and there's no language that prohibits that as it stands right now in the policy. And then some of the other things were as simple as creating a brochure of frequently asked questions. Right now it's all narrative, and it's sometimes difficult to digest if you're not used to it. So we had some ideas on that. And then just an explanation that there is private insurance available because our program's limited to $3,500 per calendar year. There are programs out there, private insurance companies, you would have to pay a premium. The city wouldn't pay it for you, but if you're worried about your lateral and exceeding that $3,500, you can get private insurance. And then lastly, soliciting help from the state to try to raise the assessed value, which is only a $50 fee. It's been stuck at $50 for years. So that doesn't help us right now because we only get $50, and you can get $3,500 per calendar year for that $50. I mean, it's good for the resident if you did have a backup that led to a defect, and now the defect needs to be repaired. So we looked at those 7 different things, came up with some solutions for those. One of them in particular would be changing the way the current program is. So I put together a little flow arrow that shows you, okay, you have a backup, this is what you do. You go through the steps. If the blockage is removed, there's no defect, you stop at this particular step. If there is a defect, then you continue on through the process. And it would shift the onus to the property owner where he or she would have to solicit 3 quotes for a non-emergency situation, send those to Public Works, and then we agree upon a mutually agreeable contractor to fix that. As it stands now, we get quotes, but maybe you have someone in particular you like that does work that would also be the lowest quote or lowest bidder. So that would help change that. I don't know if you have any particular questions about it or if you want to look at a specific point in here. There was a lot to digest, I know.
Right. Why don't we do this? Why don't we open the, ask the board if they have any questions for you on the proposed changes for the sewer lateral program.
Yeah, and the changes that I was proposing wouldn't take effect until January of 2020, so we have time between now and then but we also wanted to give ample time to roll it out and advertise it too, so I figured between October and November we can condense this down to one approved program.
Okay. Alderwoman Sims.
Deanna, I had some questions. These proposed changes, the net result, the amount is still $3,500, right? That they will be getting towards the.
Right. I wasn't trying to change that. All I'm trying to do is continue with the program, exclude the home sale contingency. So if you had it inspected and there's just tree roots, it's not defective. It hasn't caused a backup. If you cleared the roots out, you could continue to use the sewer lateral. But I know we've had a few that have gone through the system that it was a home sale contingency. The person's moving. The new person comes in, or the realtor has it inspected with the new prospective buyers, and now there's an issue, even though it hasn't backed up.
But if it otherwise, say there is a home, it just so happens they're selling the house, and that's part of the contract. But if the subject damage otherwise qualifies, it would qualify.
Right. If it were a collapsed sewer lateral or something, well, obviously you can't get an occupancy permit because you don't have a functioning sewer lateral. But sometimes they just see structural cracks, and the crack doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to function. It'd be like some of the slate wearing off on a shingle roof, and it still keeps the water out. Maybe you prorate it or something.
And so if my line collapses, it needs to be repaired. What happens now? My question is about why we're shifting the onus on the citizen to somehow. I don't know the first thing about running down a lateral sewer, person, and so now I've got to get 3 bids. So
and that's what some of our comparators do, and that's where we were leaning, is looking at the comparators. Chesterfield actually has an on-call program, but they also let the residents solicit 3 quotes. So you can either choose the one that they provide, or you bring 3 quotes. Others, it's strictly 3 quotes.
Right. Why are we doing that? I mean, to me, it just, if it's I need to get my lateral sewer, we bid it out. I mean, is it, and now.
We've had some people ask, it's like, well, why don't you hire so-and-so? It's like, well, can you get a quote from them?
So is there any online,
Some of them actually just give a link to the licensed plumbers and drain layers. We could do that. So at least if you didn't know where to begin, you would click on the link on our website, and then it would take you to St. Louis County's website.
Yeah, that's my concern, is that they're
Yeah.
not gonna know, it's gonna be emergent, more or less, because
Right.
they're not.
If it's emergency, that's why I changed, down at the bottom of that flow arrow, that if it's emergency, then we would have the ability to just get one quote. It collapses, it's on a Saturday, well, you're not gonna wait until Monday to get 3 quotes. You're gonna want the first person that answers that phone.
Yeah, that was gonna be, that leads up to an additional question I have, but so I need a new laterals, I need work done.
Mhm.
It's all on me to get 3 quotes and to have that be acceptable with the city. I mean, I guess I just don't understand why we need to change that process of what's wrong with how it is now as to that issue.
It was really just to give flexibility to the residents. It's like if you have someone in mind that you've used on your house, kind of like with your car, if you take it to a specific garage, maybe you don't want someone else to give a quote. You're used to taking it to such and such Ford or Nissan or whatever it is.
Do you have, I mean, if someone who is not trained, doesn't have any particular experience with that, do you have contractors that you recommend? I mean, I think it's more gonna be, you got these old houses that have delayed, work. It's gonna be a situation in which the repair needs to be done, and the citizen doesn't have the first clue as to how to go about soliciting bids and, getting one that's, running those traps. So that's,
Right.
How are we helping that person, who's not accustomed to that? How does this program address that limited knowledge?
And I guess for us, we already have the knowledge because we've dealt with it, but if you want to shift it to, or not even change it, that's a possibility too. Again, it was just to give greater flexibility. It's like, 3 contractors you want to do painting on your house or whatever, maybe you'd rather use those than the ones we use in-house.
And what happens to me, it seems like it'll always be an emergency. I don't know, so what happens, it's blocked, because I know that the policy, the changes, speak to non-emergent situations. So what happens
Right.
if it's, if it's an emergency, what happens?
To us, emergency is that there's no flow whatsoever. A non-emergency would be a tree root has caused a slight separation between the 2 pipe joints, and it's leaking, but it's allowing flow to go. It's not backing up in your basement or wherever. It originally backed up, they cleared the roots, now it's flowing again. But you still have that separation that you need to somehow fix, either lining it or cutting it out and putting a new piece in. That would be a non-emergency. A true emergency would be it's collapsed, or it's so blocked up nothing flows. They've tried to auger it and they can't get through it. We've seen a couple of those where there's a hunk of the original cast iron casting that was through your basement wall. It broke off because it's 100+ years old, and it went down the line and it's turned at an angle, and you can't push it any further downstream. That's an extreme case, but we've seen it. So they can go so far, they dig it up, they cut it out, and they throw that piece away.
So if it is an emergency, am I able to just then get 1 quote?
If it's an emergency, yes.
Okay, and is that somewhere else because
it's in the flow chart, and we can make it a little bit clearer.
Yeah, I would just like, I'm concerned about someone who isn't really good, up until recently, we had a hotline you called.
Right.
And
Yeah, we
then
shifted
they
away
came
from
and
that.
they fixed it. And
Right.
now we're capping it and we're shifting the work onto the homeowner. And just that it can be clarified that if it's an emergency, you only have to get 1 bid, because that wasn't apparent to me when
Right.
I was reading what was on what was provided to us. I mean, the other things I can understand that we can't force a repair as part of a closing of a sale of a home, but I'm concerned that it just didn't seem clear that if it's an emergency, this is what you can do. I mean, I do understand that if it's not, if it's just kind of limping along, that there's a little more process involved, but
Right.
I don't know if that means I need to propose an amendment to this, but is there a way to just make sure that that's clarified, that if this is what an emergency
Yeah, we can make
is?
like another flow arrow diagram. Originally, I had a decision tree, but I think I'm the only one that knows how to read those as an engineer. So it's got a diamond and it says yes or no when you follow it around, and everybody looks at me like I'm goofy whenever I present it to my people.
And I'll say generally, just like Word documents don't post well to
Right.
Word docs, and so all happened. The red line change. I couldn't really see any of that on my iPad, so that put me at a disadvantage too. But that would be that's my comment. That if it just clarify that if it's an emergency, this is this is what you have available.
Yeah, the simplest would
and
be
it's
just to
not.
have an arrow, non-emergency, emergency, and then that way, and it would describe like what constitutes an emergency. And then that's the one you use. And if it's a non-emergency, then use the other one.
Okay.
You know, it's either A or it's B.
Right, that's all.
Alderman Lockfield?
Yeah, the reason for your having the homeowner go out and get bids, we were kind of finding that by going to our own list, prices seem to be going up and far exceeding the 3,500. So by having the homeowner go out and getting 3 bids out in the marketplace, we were hoping it'd be more competitive that way and bring down some of these costs. So that was a theory on that.
Is there anything else, Steve? No. Alderman O'Neill?
Yeah, I would like you to address the calendar year limit. With the new criterion, do you anticipate people coming back year after year as they might have done in the past? Can you anticipate how many recalls?
We usually don't have that many repeats. You know, we might have one where it's, you know, tree roots or something, and then suddenly the tree roots have grown back again and caused a separation. But I'd say that's maybe a 1 or 2% chance that you'd have a repeat. This just allows the clock to reset. Like you took advantage of it this year, but it's still the original, you know, 1930 pipe, and it failed at one point, and now 20 feet down the line, it's the same vintage pipe, it failed again. So it gives you the opportunity, as long as you pay that assessed value, to take advantage of it again, even if it's 3 or so years. The one unique comparator that actually puts you on a wait list is Clayton. So once you take advantage of it, you wiped out your $3,000 credit with them. You have to wait 3 years before you can participate again. I didn't like it because then I have to keep track of every single point in Brentwood as to where their clock sets at 0. And then if they call, then I have to look it up and then try to figure out, oh, they're 2 months away, sorry. You know, that just makes it too burdensome for us. I just like it on January 1, it's a clean slate again. You get to participate.
Thank you.
Anything else? Alderman Leahy?
Based on working to a new program and the limits, what do you think, because it's an opinion question only, would be the reserves that this account can build and work towards paying off the $340,000 that we owe in it?
Yeah, right now, I know one of those had an exhibit where we kind of broke down, like if we paid ourselves at 1%, we owe $320,000. If we develop a surplus, which this year I think we will have a surplus, assuming the county pays us the remainder of the assessments, because we've only taken in like $48,000, they owe us another $100, but our expenditures are roughly $97,000 so far. So I'm hoping we're, say, $20,000 to the positive. But this year's kind of a hybrid because January and February, if you recall, we allowed cleaning and cabling.
Yep.
So that's several thousand that we absorbed this year. But then starting next year, it's 100% no cabling and cleaning, so I'm hoping to build that up. And at $3,500 for the cap, it allows us to not have so much responsibility, you know, based on the number of claims that we see month over month.
The second question I have, I'll go back to the 3 bids. If we're establishing as a city of Brentwood that your cap of total reimbursement from the city is just the $3,500, why is it not projectable to let the homeowner get his own contractor, and as long as he's agreed to the total bill, he knows what his max refund is from the city? Is that allowing us to fall into some type of slippery slope or trap by doing it that way versus making them go get 3 bids to come back to you to say, now which one are we going to use?
Yeah, we were just trying to make the individual foster competition. So rather than just pick one of them, they would solicit 3 for the same work.
But in reality, that's not going to change our commitment to the resident. They will get no more than the max.
That's true. Yeah, we're topped out at the $3,500. The first $3,500 belongs to Brentwood. Anything over, that's 100% on whoever.
And you're hoping that most of their bills will be below that $3,500 cap?
I think they'll do more shopping around to get it below that $3,500 so that then they're on, you know, they're free and clear. So if the original contractor that you got, contractor A, says it's $4,000, you're like, I think I can do better. I can get it below 4 and then I'll owe 0. Versus I'm going to just write a $500 check and Brentwood's going to pay $3,500.
Thank you. That's what I wanted on. Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions and a comment. The comment is I'm absolutely a fan of the non-emergency process with the 3 bids. I can tell from my own firsthand experience that can spell the difference of thousands of dollars that the homeowner would otherwise have to pay. Getting the bids is a really good process. I understand it's a little bit extra work, but in every case that I believe I'm familiar with, it turns out it's a small amount of work for possibly large savings. The questions that I have for you, Dan, on the 1084.3, I guess the resolution that we're being asked to approve, and the policy that goes along with that, there is this question that I think came up in the past about the contractors having to be county licensed and also on the city of Brentwood's list of licensed providers. Is that the case? Both of those need to be in place.
I would defer to plan and development on what needs to be done as far as in Brentwood, but I know we've hired ones that were county licensed. I don't know about the Brentwood license. If they go in to make sure that they have a Brentwood business license, is that the question?
I think there's a list of licensed contractors that's on the MyGov, I guess, maybe.
It's a specialized skill set.
Yeah.
And license requirement for you to do sewer lateral work. So if you're on the county list, then they will approve you to do sewer lateral work. I don't know if, like Ian said, City of Brentwood, I believe, has a similar requirement, but the ones we've used have been approved by St. Louis County to do sewer lateral.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, I am a large believer in the fact that we need to gain the attention of our state legislators to get off the mark on this $50 fee, which is has no sign or semblance of COLA in its definition. And a lot of the fees have gone up substantially with that staying in place for a long period of time. I don't know, Bola, do you know how many years we've had the 50's been in place? Long time. The question is that going to be done, I guess the wording through the municipal league help, or are we going to do that ourselves?
It is on their municipal league's legislative agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? No other discussion? Entertain a motion to approve Resolution 1084.3.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Lockmuller, seconded by Alderman Waggy. Plufka. Okay, guys. Require lights. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Next on the agenda, item 12, citizen comments. Again, anybody in the audience care to address the board? Now is the time to do so. Seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
That's what occurred.
All approved?
Aye. 50 minutes.
Why am I getting smiles over there? Did I do something wrong? Did I forget something? Oh, okay.
Just
Shall
pick
I-
who you want.
Motion made by Kathy, seconded by me, approved by all. To adjourn.
In their priority stack.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
I have a dining room table. I cannot see the top.
Oh, your dining room table?